Welcome to another episode of X Vicarious. So today I'm joined by a famous YouTuber called Finn McKenty. Finn is a creator with over 1 million followers across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and music fans may be familiar with the punk rock MBA and his appearances on massive media outlets including the No Jumper podcast, CNN, and Billboard. He's even been quoted by the New York Times. But aside from being a creator, Finn helps entrepreneurs grow on LinkedIn and YouTube after doing 20 years of marketing and design for Nike, Red Bull, Nintendo, and more. As cool as this is, the video that made it impossible for me not to reach out to Finn was when he explained why short form video can suck for entrepreneurs. I had to hear more about his perspective on LinkedIn video, and I thought I'd share it with you all in the process. So just remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this. This is my second part of my dive into LinkedIn video and just sharing the perspectives of people doing really well in the domain. I'll see you guys soon. All right, welcome back to another episode of X Vicarious, where we're digging into these 15-minute interviews with people doing really well on LinkedIn, giving us interesting perspectives on LinkedIn video. So, Finn, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And I would say that I'm doing maybe slightly above average on LinkedIn just to set expectations.
Well, very humble, but I wanted to say, you have a huge personal brand, over 1 million followers across different platforms, but I imagine your YouTube audience who's into punk rock would be very different to your LinkedIn audience of
Yes.
entrepreneurs. So how do you leverage these diverse audiences as someone who helps businesses grow?
Well, I really don't. Essentially, I treat LinkedIn as a completely separate audience from everybody else. There is some crossover, but I don't really expect it.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised if I get on a call with someone and they're like, "Oh, I love you on YouTube." I look at that as a bonus, but
Right.
they're just entirely different. And I think the lesson for anybody listening to this is if you have an audience from one thing, you shouldn't expect it to carry over into another thing. Because generally speaking, audiences have pretty narrow expectations of you. They want you to talk about one thing in one format, and they don't really want you to change from that.
Right.
There's probably a few examples of people that have been able to pivot, but there's not very many of them. So if you're known for being the founder of one company or whatever, and you want to start talking about photography, just assume you're going to be starting over from scratch.
Okay. So
Or vice
audiences
versa.
aside, what do you think your experience with growing so large on YouTube, how does that help you actually grow on other platforms like LinkedIn, audiences aside?
LinkedIn is really its own special beast that it's different in a lot of ways than every other platform, which I can talk about. As far as what I learned from YouTube that helped me grow on LinkedIn, more than anything else, number one, understanding video at a very, very deep level, which I think we're probably going to talk about. It's a hot topic on LinkedIn right now.
Yeah.
I realize that it's a new thing for some people, especially short form video. I've been doing it for 7 years. Every YouTuber has been deep into shorts for like 4 years
Yeah.
or however long it's been. So we've seen this movie before. It's new to LinkedIn people. And so I think we have some insight there that they may not. Aside from that, just understanding, I have 130 million views on YouTube. I don't know how many impressions that works out to be, probably billions. So I've been in front of a lot of people for a long time. And I've been canceled many times. People have said every horrible thing you could ever imagine to me, and I came out of it alive. So, LinkedIn is a very nice place. I mean, people
Yeah.
maybe get a little bit upset about things here and there, but there's nothing that's going to happen to me on LinkedIn that's anywhere near as nasty as what would happen on Twitter or Reddit or TikTok or YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's never been any kind of fear. I'm not
I,
worried about anything that's going to happen to me on LinkedIn.
I know what you mean, especially in the music scene. I was posting music on Instagram, TikTok, and through those early days where you get heaps of hate, it really just
Yeah.
builds up a front where when you're on LinkedIn, the worst thing that could happen there is sometimes not even as bad as one of the better things to happen on TikTok
Yes.
and YouTube when you're posting about music, because those audiences
Yeah.
will really come at you. So yeah,
Yes.
it's a really good perspective there.
Yeah. The
So
worst person on LinkedIn is better than the nice people that
yeah,
are going to be consuming music content on TikTok,
yeah.
I would say especially.
Yeah, it's funny. So for the people on LinkedIn, who should be making short form videos and who shouldn't?
So I think everybody should make short form videos, but not for the reasons that a lot of people may think. What a lot of people think is that short form video is the key to growth on LinkedIn right now. And I don't actually think that's true for a couple of reasons. Number one is that from what I have seen on my own accounts and from talked about it with other people, what I've seen is that the reach on video is not really that much better than the reach on other types of posts, unless it gets picked up by the For You feed, in which case it will get a lot of reach. But if it doesn't, like my posts, my image or text posts typically get 3 to 10,000 impressions. Videos get about the same unless they get picked up by the For You feed. And then it'll get, I had one that got like 200,000 impressions in a day. However, the engagement from those impressions was very low. That video got 250 likes or something, which is higher than average for me, but not that much higher. Like I get 100, 150, 200 likes on an image post fairly often. So the reach on video can be higher. However, the engagement that comes with that reach, I would say, is not proportional. There are people, I'm sure, that are killing it with short form video and growing a lot on LinkedIn. However, I think that the purpose of video on LinkedIn to me is actually to go deeper with the people who already follow you, because it's a chance for them to see your face, to hear your voice, to read your body language, all those other parts of communication that are really challenging to do a text. Like video is uniquely good at those. So I would say everybody should make it for that reason. And if it ends up getting picked up by the For You page and getting much reach, awesome. That's great. But I would look at that as a bonus, not necessarily the expectation.
Yeah. So for people focusing on growth, you're saying the ratio of how much you get from it compared to doing text is not worth it because of how much time you'd have to spend on video versus text. But video does get you a lot more trust, which is something that's less tangible, but obviously that's the biggest power you believe in video.
Exactly. So you think about anybody that's in B2B of any kind, what are you always pushing for? A call or a meeting, right? Because when you get on a call with someone or meet somebody face to face, you see all those things. Right now, I say something, you nod, like we're communicating. That's nonverbal communication, but it means I'm like, okay, he understood what I was saying. That resonated with him. When you're in a meeting with someone, you say a thing and they're like, oh, and they nod and you're like, okay, he's responding to that. These are all the kind of dynamics that can happen with video that can't happen with text. So if people have seen a bunch of your videos, they feel like they know you. For example, I went to the grocery store earlier today. I was checking out at the self-checkout and somebody recognized me. He was like, oh, hey, Finn, I love your channel. I have no idea who he was. He feels like he knows me because he's probably watched me talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think that's going to do for your business? If people feel like they know you, maybe when they read your text posts, they're going to read them in your voice. They may know some of your backstory, just all these things. Just think about if you walked into a meeting and this person already felt like they were friends with you, what would that do to your ability to close, right? Like they're already halfway there.
Yeah, for sure. And when you compare short form video to long form video, I know you mentioned that with short form, even if your posts are blowing up a lot, sometimes you always just think of that person as that girl who does this or that guy who does this, but you don't really remember their name. Are there ways for you to make your name more memorable when making short form video?
You can say it, say your name. But for example, I did this in all my YouTube long form videos. Starting from the very beginning, I made sure to say my name at the beginning of every video. And I put my Instagram handle, which is my name, on there because one of the specific goals that I had for YouTube is I just literally wanted people to know my name. So I made sure to always say that. For example, if you're making short form videos, like right now in Riverside, it has my name in the lower left. You could just do that in all your videos because people are probably not going to look at the account, right? So you can do that stuff. But I think short form video, like you said, it's inherently a passive consumption format. So whether it's TikTok, LinkedIn, Shorts, it doesn't matter. Everyone's just like scroll, 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 scroll. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's very low intent because the algorithm is just serving it to you and you're just either taking it or not. As opposed to long form video where you're a little bit pickier, right? Like the typical usage pattern or use case for YouTube is you're making lunch or doing laundry or something like that. So you open up your phone or your TV and you're like, okay, I got 15 minutes to kill. What should I watch? You scroll through a little bit and you're like, no. Oh yeah. Okay. I like this channel. Let's check that one out. So it's much more intentional. You're really choosing to watch this for a specific reason rather than the algorithm just being like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? So I think you just have to understand that short form video is inherently a lower engagement format than long form and just go into it with that in mind.
Yeah, I know that for your videos, on your thumbnail, you have quite a similar title, like similar design for each of those videos. For your LinkedIn ones, I noticed a lot of them have kind of like a diagonal
Yeah.
title, specific font and color.
Yeah.
So do you think by doing that, you have that recognizability that can make people more intentional when they think of, oh, I remember this guy said something about short form. Let me go back onto his content and I see this. And then they start looking through your videos more intentionally. Is that why you do that with the thumbnails, or is there a different reason why you do that?
That is why I do it. So I'm basically just applying, a YouTube pattern to LinkedIn, because right now I don't really think that people are browsing your videos like they browse a YouTube channel. But I'm just imagining that might someday be the case. And I want to sort of future proof my videos if that ever is the case. Yeah. But right now, most people don't even see the thumbnail because the videos autoplay. So, you see it for like one frame. But I just figured if there's ever a world in which people are seeing that grid of thumbnails, I would like it to work in the way that you just said.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, it worked that way for me, actually, when I was going back and looking at some of the things. So for the entrepreneurs that you work with, when you give them advice about making effective short form video on LinkedIn, what's one tip that they're most surprised by?
The most surprising thing for people about making short form video, or really video of any kind, is that in order to come off as natural and authentic on video, you actually kind of have to overact a little bit. Meaning that if you just get in front of the camera and talk the way that you normally do, when you watch that back, when it's edited, you're going to seem like a dead fish. So, you've heard people say the camera adds 10 pounds. I don't really think that's true, but I do think it removes half of your energy. So if anybody's tried making video, you've probably seen that. What you need to do when you're recording the video is, you know how like theater kids are always really extra running? They're like, ah! In the hallway at lunch, They're like, why are they like this? Well, the reason why is they have this thing called playing to the back of the room, meaning that if they're on stage in an auditorium, they have to act in such a way that the person at the very back of the room can connect with their performance, not just the person in the front row. So they have to be really exaggerated, because if I just move my hands like this, the person in the front row will see it, but the person in the back row won't. So I have to do this so that the person in the back row will see it. And it's similar with making video. So if you're recording a video, deliver it in such a way that you are 100% sure it's going to be over the top. Use more dynamics in your voice than you normally would, move your hands more, talk louder. I'm doing that right now. I wouldn't normally like move my hands this much.
Yeah.
If we were in person, it'd be like, calm down. Why are you doing this? But when people watch this on video, it will seem natural. That's the number one tip I have, is in order to come off as natural, comfortable, and authentic on video, you kind of have to dial up the energy a little bit, knowing that when it's edited and people view it on their phone, it's going to naturally bring the energy back down.
I really like that point, and I have some thoughts on top of that. What I've noticed is if I post the same thing on Instagram and LinkedIn, all of my LinkedIn ones have actually been doing a lot better. And I think that's just for me. I'm very non-expressive. Like everything I do, I don't have much expression in. But when I do it on LinkedIn, obviously I'm adding that extra expression that you mentioned. But I think I've added enough for a LinkedIn audience to enjoy.
Yes.
But not necessarily enough for TikTok and Instagram, where you have to go
yes.
way over the top. And I think that actually works in the favor for a lot of people wanting to do it on LinkedIn, because it's like you have to do a little bit more, but you don't have to go crazy.
Absolutely. And you shouldn't, because like for a LinkedIn audience, that's too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Because remember, I said earlier that LinkedIn is different than every other platform. The reason why is that every other app is a consumer entertainment app. And LinkedIn, at the end of the day, is a B2B marketplace. That's what it is. So people are in a different frame of mind there. And all those same people have accounts on YouTube, but they're in a different frame of mind. When they open up YouTube, they're here to watch something about Formula One or gardening or whatever they're into, not B2B SaaS, right? Which is the reason why you can't just translate your LinkedIn content to YouTube. And it works because that's not what people use YouTube for. But like you said, that works to your advantage, because on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, you are competing with the best of the best in the world at being professional entertainers, right? Like whatever, Joe Rogan, Mr. Beast, Emma Chamberlain, whoever, you are competing for attention with them. And they're really, 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 really good at it. They're full-time creators. They're great at it. LinkedIn is people who are making content to do business. And these are people mostly that don't have a background in entertainment or making content. They're mostly just people with white collar desk jobs. So, like you said, the barrier for entertainment is so much lower in
Mm,
quality, to be honest. Mediocre content can do great on LinkedIn that would die anywhere else because people
yeah.
have higher expectations. And that's
Mm.
actually a really good thing for anybody listening to this.
Yeah, great for all the people on LinkedIn who want to get into video.
Yeah.
So when you accompany a LinkedIn video with a body of text, what exactly should you write? Should it be a mirror of your video script? Is there more info, less info? What should people do?
I mean, there's no formula, but I would say the default for me is to rewrite the script because I think it comes off as a little bit lazy if it's just a verbatim script. And also, I don't script my videos. I talk in a natural way that wouldn't really make sense if I just transcribed it. So it's just a little bit different version of what I say in the video. Maybe I'll include a couple different details because I'm
Mm,
going to assume that most people are not going to watch the whole video. And that's totally
yeah,
fine. Because again, I mostly just want them to feel like they know me. Of course, I want them to listen to everything I say, but that's not really my goal of the video. The goal is just to make them feel like they know me.
yeah,
So I'm going to assume that they're not going to listen to the whole thing. Most people on LinkedIn, I think, are readers, same as Twitter. So I'm going to assume that they'll probably read the text more than they watch the video.
yeah.
That's whatever that means for you. If you had to choose between the two, make sure that if there's something important, that it's in the text.
Yeah, awesome. So, gonna do some quick fire questions now. The first
Yes.
one, what's a dream you had as a child that stuck with you to this day?
When I was a kid, I said that I wanted to be an artist. And I don't really know what that meant because at the time, this is like the 80s. Like the idea of being an entrepreneur, that wasn't really a thing at the time. But I realized that what I really meant by that is I just want to make stuff and sell it to people. And
Mm.
that's what I do now.
Yeah, awesome. And if you had to live your life following the words of one song, what would that song be?
There's a song, an old song from the 80s by Boy George called Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? That's what I would say. It's like, come on, I'm nice. You don't want to hurt me.
Love that. Love that. Just a final thing. If you could reach everyone in the world for 30 seconds, what would you say to them?
If I could reach everyone in the world for 30 seconds, I would tell them to take a moment to make sure that you are monitoring and controlling your own internal voice in a way that serves you. Meaning that if we let that internal voice run wild, which most people do, it's probably going to take us in a direction that's not great. Whether
Yeah.
that means being angry or fearful or envious or whatever, it tends to sort of go towards the negative. So I would always just like take a minute throughout the day, especially if you feel yourself feeling a little bit like worked up or kind of not good. What is the story I'm telling myself right now? And is that story true? And is that the story that I want to be telling myself? And if not,
Mm.
flip that switch, try to tell yourself a different story. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but the more you try, the more it's going to work.
Yeah, I love that. So, yeah, just as a final thing for the people who want to get in touch with you, maybe learn about how they can grow their business or grow their brand, what's the best way?
Best way to reach me would be to just look me up on LinkedIn, Finn McKenty, FINNMCKENTY. Just send me a message on there. Happy to chat with anyone. I'm not going to make it weird and try to sell you anything. Just see if I can help you. Or you go to com and check me out there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Finn. Learned a lot today and it was a really great chat.
Thanks for having me.